Well, again, we're doing some more work with openpyxl from the Working with Excel chapter. We're in practice file 3, which is just working with multiple worksheets. So, just like what we were showing before in Excel, let me just open up a new one again. So Excel has all of these cells within a specific sheet, but you can also have multiple sheets, right? And these sheets can have names, like I could rename a sheet like this to be something else, right? So I have sheet 1, that's one of my sheets, and something else. And the active sheet is whatever one is currently like clicked on or activated, right? So those concepts also exist within openpyxl. So let's go ahead and make a workbook, which we have already right here. Let's see what the title of our active sheet is. So let's say we want to print out my workbook.active, and we want to see the title. We can do .title to see that attribute. It's printed out, so it's just sheet. That's just the default title of the active sheet. Let's change the title of that. Let's say my workbook.active title. Let's say we want to change the title of that to be students. So now we can see we changed the title from sheet over to students. So that's cool. Let's say we want to add a new sheet. So rather than just changing the title of the default sheet, we want to create an entirely new one. You could just reference your workbook and use .create sheet right here. Okay. And let's call this one classes. So if we were to do that, that would add a new sheet into my workbook. We're not going to be able to see it yet. After at the bottom of this, we're going to save it so we can get to that. You can also, instead of creating sheets, you can use .remove to remove a sheet, but just because I'm going to put data in these, I'm not going to remove them yet. So let's change the active sheet. Let's say my workbook.active, let's set that equal to my workbook. Let's make that equal to the classes sheet. Okay. Then let's add some content to the active sheet. So we could reference my workbook and classes like that, but let's just reference the active one since we just changed what the active one is. Let's add some data to the first row to the active sheet. So let's say, similar to what we did before, let's say A1. These are classes. Let's say course or class name. And let's just add a couple of things of data, class name, I don't know, room number, sure. A2 and then B2. Let's say IS303 is in room number 260. Okay, so you could do that. So this is adding data to whatever workbook or worksheet, I should say, is currently assigned to be the active one. In this case, that should be classes because we manually set it to be that. Let's say you want to assign data to a sheet that isn't the active one. You could also just say my workbook and then reference a sheet name just directly by its name. And then if you want to affect any of the cells, you just put square brackets right after it again. So let's say student in A1. I think it's students is what we called it. Yeah, we did an S. Okay, so let's go over here. Let's say name. Oops. Let's go over here. Okay, let's say B1 name grade A2 and B2. Gem has a B+. Cool. So you can edit the active sheet, or you can edit a sheet by naming whatever the title of that sheet is. Let's say you want to store a cell and then work with it. So we could say my cell, whatever you want to call it, equals my workbook. Let's reference the students one, and let's get cell A2. So we're going to store that in a variable, and then we can get access to specific attributes of that cell. So let's try doing print cell.value. So let's see the value. A few other things. Let's do value, row, column, and coordinate. Let's try printing that out. So if we're grabbing the data from A2, that should be Jim, should be our value there. Let's actually run through that. Cool. So we're getting Jim as the value. The row it's in is 2. The column it's in is 1, and we can notice that that is the, it gives us the column number, not the letter of the column. Coordinate gives us the column letter and row combination, like that. So those are just stored inside of every cell within a sheet. So you can always access any one of those. You can also do the cell method. So let's see here. Let's do my workbook. Let's do the active sheet dot cell. Let's get the second row. So if you'll see here, it says row and then column. So we can do the second row, first column, and then we want to get the value out of that. So let's try printing this out. And that is going to be IS303. Cool. And remember, we put that all the way up here. So A2 in the active sheet, which right now has classes, that value is IS303. You can also add a new value doing this. So you cell to add a new value to the active sheet at the third row. So let's do third row, first column. We're going to get rid of dot value. In fact, we're going to get rid of print. So a cell, the first thing you do is row and then column, and that'll get you that cell. If you specify a value, it will also change that value as well. So we can do, I don't know, IS201. Then let's find out so I'm going to add that data in. We're going to find out the furthest row and furthest column, and then we're going to save it and we can look at it for reference as well. So let's do my workbook. Let's do the active sheet. Let's do max row. And you can do the same thing with max column. And what this does is it finds, within a specific sheet, it finds the row furthest down that has data, or the column the furthest out that has data. Sometimes that's useful for like knowing what ranges you want to apply things to. So let's do print, then let's save this. So we have my workbook.save. Let's save it as example 3 because we are in file 3.xlsx. And like I said, even though we're at the end of the file, this doesn't actually really change anything, but it's a good idea to get in the habit of closing a workbook that you're not working with. So let's run through that. Let's run this. We should see the max row. So the max row was 3. That makes sense because we just added something to the third row. The max column was 2. If we go and look at example 3, we can see we have our 2 sheets right here. And we made classes be the active sheet, and we can see that the max row is indeed 3 because we have 3 rows of data. Max column is 2 because we have 2. So that should cover everything there. Just remember you can access things with .cell like that, or you can always access things just using the actual reference in square brackets, like B2, A2, B1, D40, whatever you want to do. Anything like that would work. So that'll be the end of this file. Next time we're going to go over file 4 with load existing files.